What is happening, guys? It is your main man, Matt, from the DFS 5 pack. I am not rocking it solo. I am with a customer who's been with us for a little while. Say what up, Dustin.
Hey guys,
So,
5 pack for about a year and a half, 2 years now.
yeah, sweet. I know you just became an annual member like right before all this stuff happened. And so we appreciate your support. And I know I've been talking to you a little bit about this League of Legends stuff. And we decided why not hop on here, make a video. We got nothing better to do. Who knows? If you guys like it, we'll keep doing more of these. So let me just start off real quick and then I'll let you get into it. I am not a gamer. I've made that really clear if you've watched any of our videos. I don't know League of Legends. It's not a game I would ever be interested in playing. When I did play video games, I played like Madden. I was good at Madden, but I haven't played that in years. So, my life as it is now, it just doesn't have gaming involved in it. However, with no sports going on, League of Legends DFS is big time right now. They have big contests. And while I'm not a fan of the game itself, I am a fan of the competition. I'm a fan of DFS. I'm a fan of the strategy that goes involved in it. And I'm also a fan of winning money and potentially, winning shipping 50K if you hit the nuts on a tournament. So that being said, I'll get into it a little more after you talk about like the strategy of the game. Because for me, how I play, it's more of a strategy of DFS. As we were talking before, for me, it's the easiest DFS game because the strategy is really simple. But before we get into that, why don't you go over what your thoughts are, what you want to get accomplished here, etc.
Yeah, so I'm also not a gamer. Never played the game of League of Legends. I just saw it on DraftKings probably about a year ago and just slowly started putting a little bit of my bankroll into it just to see how it goes. So I don't 100% know exactly how it works, but I have won, have lost. I mean, it's just like any other GFS sport. The main thing I know is you want to usually try to get, especially for cash, is just pick some winning teams. It's like as Matt and I were talking earlier, it's a lot easier to kind of play League of Legends because your main goal is to pick two winning teams, stack them, and you should be cashing.
Yeah.
So, and then the lineup situation pretty much is there's a top player, there's a jungle player, there's a middle player, an ADC, which is an attacking carry player, and then a support player. Your main scoring players usually are the mid player and your ADC player. Top player also is one that scores, but he's really hit or miss. And then your jungler is setting up the attacks, and your support is protecting your team and also setting up attacks. So if you can get a really high scoring kind of combo of the mid and the ADC, or if you can get the ADC and the support player in there, it's a pretty good combo. You're usually going to score if your team's winning.
I'm 100% with you. So, hold on one second. I'm trying to screen share this. Why don't you keep talking for a second so I can.
Yeah. So the way it kind of works is it's a 5-on-5. You got 5 different champions, and like I said, I don't know 100% how this all goes, but from what I've watched, you got 5-on-5, and then your goal is to take over the other team's base. To do that, you have to kill your opponents and take the objectives that are on the maps. So there's a lot of that goes on to this, and kind of like tonight, there's a slate that is the LPL and the LCK, which are two different leagues that are in China and Korea. And as me and Matt have discussed, the LPL is more kill heavy, kill dominant, which is what you want. The whole scoring system, I guess I should go into, is you get kills, you get assists, you get deaths, and you get creep score. For players, and then you have to pick a team member, and the whole team as a whole, you get points for killing turrets, killing barons, killing dragons, and winning the game. So you really want a team that is very offensive, explosive. So if you can get those kills and assists, and you stack a team, you're going to look really good for a cash game lineup or even a GPP lineup.
It's the easiest game. It's the easiest game to play, just in the sense that, and I'm pulling it up right now. Sorry, I a little bit of a brain fart. Can you see? Is it on your screen? Is it showing it right now?
Yeah, I see.
Okay, so you need to pick two winning teams. I know you talked. They've been playing a bunch of games. There's been like 6-game slates, which is not usually how they play it. Usually it's like 3 to 4 game slates, I think you were saying. And
Yeah, I see 2 to 4 games, even less than that.
in 2 or 3 game slates, you got to have you pick 2 winning teams and you're going to be cashing. There's it's just what it is. You got to pick 2 teams that you think are going to win, and you have to stack them, and that's how you cash. Now, maybe you use a one-off from another team, not only just to be different in tournaments, but also you might need that to fit 2 expensive teams. Like last night, if you wanted to use the 2 teams were, I always get this wrong. I think it was ES, or is it EG? ES?
Yes.
Okay, ES and RNG. So those 2 are projected to be by far the highest scoring of the night. You could not stack them together. So it's a little more complicated than just, picking the 2 heavy favorites and stacking them together. But you got to pick 2 winners, and you have to stack. It's what it's all about. Picking one-offs in LOL, League of Legends, I've only played it for a week, but this is just what I've learned from playing tournaments and watching whatever shows I can see on it. Doing one-offs in this is even worse than just doing a full team of one-offs in baseball, and that's saying a lot.
You got to pick the winning teams. That's the biggest thing here. And you got to pick. Not only do you have to pick the winning teams, but you got to pick the winning teams that fight. Because you can still pick a winning team, and if they end up as a team hitting 6 to 8 kills, you're going to get very minimal points and still not have it.
So, okay, let me ask you this, though. So I think a strategy, and I've heard it a couple times now said it, we talked about, the China League seems to have higher scores than the Korean League, and that just is what it is. However, do you think people are avoiding the Korean League because of that? And if so, should they be? I mean, or are enough people not aware of that where we should just kind of avoid them? What's your thought process on it?
I mean, I still will take LCK teams. It just depends. I only take ones that I think are in good spots. Like the game last night, for instance, the T1 and Gen G game. I didn't think it was in the best spot, but I still took it, and I took the T1 players just because they could fit my lineup. I felt like they had a good chance to win, and they were the underdogs in that game. And I felt like they had a really good chance to win and possibly put up some good points. Plus, they were still killing a lot of things lately. Like their top laner was averaging about 70 points to about 90 points a game, which I thought was fantastic. I would take that any day of the week. As you can see, looking just down here, all those Wii players are averaging 70, 90, 70, 40, 60. I mean, if you can get 70 to 80 out of a player, you're looking great. And if you can get them at a cheap price, and those LCK players are good still, but they do a lot more strategy, while I think the LPL players go just head on for kills and head hunting.
I don't even know who's better or who's worse because I don't know enough about the game. But I think it's just a different style game, and the LCL is one more I guess, built for DFS. And just so people who are maybe are just as new as I was a week ago to this, you're drafting the guys like the ADC, you're drafting the guy that's playing that position in the video game. Just so if you're very brand new to this, the guy you're drafting is the guy actually playing in the video game, or the guy that's playing the video game itself.
Yeah. So, for instance, the second guy down, Teacher Ma, he is the mid laner for Team Wii, and he does very well. He's extremely expensive for this slate. He's the second highest price player on the slate. So he's very hard to get in your captain spot, but he should score you a ton of points tonight. And I am a big fan of Wii tonight, as is DraftKings, obviously.
Yeah, it's hard not to be a fan of Wii. I mean, I know a couple of projection sites have them projected really high. The other thing you get is, big favorites. And the other problem, you talked about that, how you need to pick 2 winning teams. With 6 games, of course, you need to pick 2 winning teams. But you also, in tournaments, need to be better than that because there's 6 games. A lot of people are going to have 2 winning teams in their lineup. There's a couple big favorites. All 3 of the games have a 260, minus 260 or above line in the LCL tonight, and that's the Chinese league. The lowest one is Team. The lowest one actually is Team Wii. So maybe we like that better for them because the game might be closer. What are your thoughts?
I actually like, if you look at them, and from what I saw, I'm pretty sure they're on just a dominating spree. So they've won, not that much, but they've won 2-0 against DMO, which isn't a good team, 2-1 against RW, who was playing at the time, 2-1 against Sunning, who's an all right team as well, and then 1-2 against BLG. But if you look at, so I clicked on he's like the sixth guy down, and
Right.
I'm on my screen. But in his last 4 games, playing pretty much 3 games the whole time, he's averaging, give or take, 88, 87 points. And that is great for that price, too. I mean, honestly, in DraftKings League of Legends, it doesn't matter what the prices are. You just want 2 winning teams.
So what I'll say about Team Lee is I like them a lot, but they're also the highest priced. So so are you saying you like them more than BLG or TES?
I like players on TES. It's just hard to squeeze all of them in. So TES tonight, I really like Knight, who's their mid laner.
Okay. Pull them up. I got him. Is he pulled up right now?
Yeah.
Cool.
And he's been playing well lately. They're top esports, which is top TES, is also on a 3-game winning streak of shutting out their opponents each game. So they are playing with some confidence right now as well.
We don't want that. Dude, we don't want it with 2-0.
So when you win 2-0, you get a bonus. I don't know if you know that.
Each player gets how much of a bonus?
So there's a scoring stat called a GNP, game not played, and each player gets 20 points from the winning team.
It's 20 points.
Yeah.
So what does that equate to? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, what is that like? But in a game, okay, I'm trying to figure it out because it's really like how much would they have gotten in a game they lost, right?
Depending. Yeah, really just depends how.
Well, what does that 20 points equate to? Because you're seeing how many points like Knight scores per game. Like a third game would be better than 20 points. But if there was a third game, they would have had to have lost one of them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I like the 20-point bonus, especially if you take an underdog and the like everyone else is on. Say for instance on this game, everyone's on top esports, and we took Stunning, and they 2-0'd top esports. We would have the upper hand on them, and we'd all get the 20-point bonus, while all the chalk doesn't get the bonus. Okay. I like when teams 2-0 them. I like it when my teams win first because then I know at least I can guarantee 3 games worth of stats as long as my player doesn't get subbed out.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, just straight up. If you can't answer, it's fine. What do you like better, a 2-0 or the third game? Like, is 20 points, I guess, more or less what most players get in a loss?
It depends, really, I guess.
Okay.
It just depends how bad they play. If they play bad, like so. Did you watch the last game of the T1 Gen G game last night or this morning? I guess.
Watch stats. Like I was actually like walking and like just watching the stats on my phone because.
So I'm gonna pull that up just on my computer real quick, and so that third game, which let's say you're hoping for in this situation, where is it at? Oh, that was LCK. Sorry. In that situation, then no, the third game was not worth it. So the third game.
Does my question make sense though? Like, am I asking?
It definitely makes sense. It's just honestly, it's just a dependence variable, I guess.
But you get something. It's not like a bad thing to go 2-0. I guess is the point.
No, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this. Just to take that a step further. RNG last night, who I played, and they won 2-0. Like they seemed to win too easy. Did that have anything to do with it being 2-0, or just the games themselves were too easy?
The team that they played, I think, was V5, which was the worst team in the league. So I think they just kind of cruise controlled the whole way.
So it didn't really matter. Like, okay.
So going to that game I was talking about, though, the game 3 of the T1 versus Gen G, if you had Gen G and you won the first game, you're like, okay, cool. Hoping, and then lost the second game, you're like, okay, now I have a chance to get back. On the third game, none of their players scored over 20 points.
Okay, yeah, I got you. Okay, fair enough. So I guess a
It's a
case by
point.
case. But
Yeah,
it's certainly not like a bad thing just off the bat.
it
Um,
was. So thinking of the E Stars last night, that is a game where I'd want it to go to 3 because the E Stars are the LPL team that is honestly the best team right now,
yes.
and they kill their opponents a ton. So if they can get 3 games in and be up in that 15 to 20 point score every kill score every single game, I'll take that every single. I'd want that 3 games. But if you're looking at like this Gen G team who their kill scores for all 3 games were 12 for one game, which is not that great, 2 for the next game, which is horrible, and then 3 for the next game. I'd hope that they could win twice with 12 and get out of there and get the 20 point bonus. But I honestly, in that situation, I wouldn't even want to have any of them on my team.
Okay, so all right, looking ahead to tonight because like again, there's 3 big favorites in the China League. Talk to me about because what I've done when I've had a couple like pretty successful nights in this, you know, multi-entering a little bit. Certainly not like max entering, but putting some lineups in the big $10 and having like a few top 100 finishes, which isn't good enough, but I'm gonna keep playing. That's for sure. Hopefully, I can get to the top of the mountain at some point. What I've done, and this is like any other sport when there's like big favorites out there, so there's 2 things, and I told this to you. When there's a big favorite, that's a big favorite because they're playing a team that might be a little bit worse than them, and the team that's a favorite has been sliding and losing a bunch recently, but everyone just like thinks that they're going to bounce back. I love taking the other side of that because that's just DFS in a nutshell. Everyone thinking that this team's going to bounce back. They're heavy favorites for really no good reason. Um, and the other side, that was the case in DMO last night because they played LNG, I believe, and LNG
Yeah,
had like sucked recently. And I know DMO is like not very good, but LNG also is not good. And they were
yeah,
chalk and they weren't good. They lost 0-2.
they got
So
dominated.
so the other part of that, and then I'll let you speak on this, is like VG last night. They were facing ES, who's really good, but VG is good. And again, I don't know about League of Legends, but I've played this for like a little over a week. They've won like basically every game they've played. They've been really good for me. So like the fact that they were so cheap last night, pairing those two together, I made one lineup that paired those two together. It left $10,000 on the board, and it was like placed 30th out of 11,000 or out of like 20,000 people or whatever it was. So I like that. That really tickles my GPP fancy, if you will. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I agree. It's hard for me to leave money on the table, and it's something just in DFS that it's hard for me to do. But in League
For
of
sure.
Legends, I kind of like how I said, as long as you get the top 2 scoring teams and you stack them and they win, that's the only thing that
Because
matters.
when you get 2 underdogs that win, usually the games are going to be a lot closer than like RNG last night because they're underdogs for a reason. Even like DMO, who went 2-0, like they scored a lot of points because those games are close. You're not going to have underdogs usually just like walk all over the favorites. So when you can pick, that's why last night the 2 underdogs that won were you had to pair them together if you wanted to take down a tournament. So looking ahead to tonight, you talked about Sun and Gaming. The team I wanted to ask you about are the Rogue Warriors because Believe Gaming or BG is the highest favorite on the board. And I know they just beat Wheat. I get that they just beat Wheat, but they had been awful before that. Losing, I mean, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in a row before that. I'm confused.
So looking at their last couple games, they did beat Wii, which I'm a big fan of, and I think they have a lot of kills in their roster. FPX is the second best team in the league.
Right? Are they
They've been,
behind Wii?
they're in front of Wii. They're up right behind ES.
Okay, ES is the best. Okay, so VG, that was a big win for VG last night.
Yeah, absolutely. The only team, so FPX, the only team that they've lost to was E Stars, and they were huge favorite going into that game, and got smoked by the E Stars.
Side note, who's better, ES or Cloud9?
I've no ES is a brand new team, so they've never played. I don't know.
Okay, it's like okay, perfectly fine answer.
The fun,
Um,
the funny thing is too is these leagues, they all play different champions, so it's really hard to tell.
Okay.
Like there's
What is?
obviously
I don't even know. What does that mean, champion?
champions is the player that they're picking. So each player chooses a champion who they play inside the game, who has different abilities. It's like it would be like playing I'm thinking like Mortal Kombat, how everyone has
Okay. So
kind
it's
of thing.
not
Like
something that like one player from each team has an advantage in going into the game, and you don't know who it is.
no, yeah. So they do a drafting system um, every single
That's
game.
what we're looking at when they're both teams are like side by side, and it's like 30 seconds between. Okay,
Yeah.
explain.
So they're doing a drafting system. So each there's called a patch that they do, and each patch changes how players function. Like they'll boost up a little attack on someone, they'll boost a little defense, decrease stuff like that. So each patch just comes out every couple of weeks, change a little bit on that, and it's called a ban phase. What they do first, so each team it gets to ban 3 players, and it could be some of the other teams' best players, some players that they don't want to play against, etc. And then they'll do a snake kind of draft all the way through for 3 rounds, and then they'll do 2 more banning phases and then 2 more rounds. So you're in the banning phase, you're kind of looking to play your pick your favorite players, pick your best players, pick your I can't even think of it, counter pieces, I guess, countering the other team, and that's kind of what you're looking to do in that phase. A lot can be won and lost on that drafting phase.
Okay, but you have no control of going into it what it is. Like,
No, it's different for every single game, and each team has their favorite players. Each team has players that they just don't pick, and there's
what do you mean
players
players they don't pick?
like so. There's I think like 160 different champions that can be picked.
So you're not talking about players like that we're picking. You're talking about players within the game.
Yeah,
Okay.
within the game. Yeah, champions versus the athletes
Okay.
is a sport, I guess.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm talking about the champions, and each one has a different um, like power move that they do. I forget what it's called. Like I said, I don't play the game. I just watch it. I understand it. A lot of times
It's like low-key fun to watch though. Like even me who like I don't like games like this. I was never like the most I ever got into a game like this was like GoldenEye. And I wasn't like the biggest fan. I just played that because everyone else liked it. But this is like when there's kills and stuff. And the other thing is the broadcasters make that shit exciting. Like they get real into it.
they get very into it. It's League of Legends, I believe, is the most popular online sport.
Yeah, I mean, you can tell how many people are watching like a YouTube channel when the North American are on. It's like fun to watch, even though I have no idea what's going on. So, and the more I learn, the more I'll obviously I'll like it even more. We haven't even brought up the fact that these games start at least for me at 2 a.m. So I'm setting my lineups like obviously at night, and I can't make changes. And there's no late swap, which I like a lot. And sometimes you don't know about the starters, and you can get screwed on that. But I'm all about the no late swap, man, because there just lives like the element of like just you got to build strategically before knowing what's going to happen in the first game. A lot changes like when you know the outcome of the first game in terms of building your lineups. And I don't want to have to go through that all night. You know what I mean?
It makes it a lot easier. You can set your lineup, make sure everyone's in there, and you can go to bed and wake up and see if you won.
Exactly.
Without waking up every 2 hours to change out players.
I couldn't do it because you would need to do it because, like I said, like what happens in one game like changes who you need in the next game and like ownership, etc. So I don't know. Okay, so back to our discussion on BLG and RW. Like, so what's up with BLG? You were breaking down their game log, and I got you off on a tangent. So go ahead.
So looking at it, their recent 2 losses were against the top 2 teams, which is very understandable.
Okay.
Those are really good teams. Then they lost to JDG, which I believe is a top 3 or 4 team. I have it up.
Or they beat We.
They beat We, which is the 8th ranked team right now. They lost to E-Star. They lost to Fun Plus Phoenix and lost to JD Gaming, which are 2, 3, and 6 respectively in the standings. Okay. Lost to Oh My Gosh.
They're not good.
Is 9th which is pretty much there's 17 teams, so they're ninth,
Okay.
so they're middle of the pack. Lost to Sunning and LNG. Sunning is 11th, and LNG is 12th. So they've been losing just the middle of the pack teams. And then you got Rogue Warriors, who lost to DMO, which does not look good at all.
DMO just won again, though.
Yeah, lost last night, but they are, as the casters say,
I'll put it before you even break them down. Though, I'll say this: like, there's a reason that they are, that BLG is minus 344. There's also a reason why, like, only like 4% of the ownership is going to RW. So, I'll put it like that. I don't know. I think they might have a in this game than that ownership implies. But break this down.
Looking at it, their wins are against. We're talking about Rogue Warriors here. The wins against V5, which is the worst team in the league, and they 2-0'd them. And then they beat Edge, who is actually playing extremely well right now, and they 2-1 them. And they beat Sunning, which is an average of the pack team. They 2-0'd them. But I don't trust that Sunning game because that was all before the pause.
Yes. They seem very up and down.
Sunning is like a win one, lose one, win one, lose one. I don't know how I feel about that. That's kind of a game. It's an LPL game, so there should be some action in it, but it's hard to pick who you think's going to win. And if one team, at least if they can go to 3 games, you should be okay in that kind of situation.
So, all right, I'll follow that up with which is your favorite game of the night, and which, as a side note to that, would be your favorite underdog to win?
So for everyone, I play a lot of cash games, and I'll throw my cash lineup in a GPP or two. That way, if I win on cash, I'm covering my GPP money, and then I can break even or win a little bit. My main strategy is I take one of the top teams, I stack a 4 usually with them, and then I fill the last 3 spots on my roster with a team that is either a little bit of an underdog or like the last favored team, something like that. It's something that I think is going to win, or at least take it to 3 games. That way, I score some points.
I get that. I mean, for cash games, that seems like very, very logical. I would do the exact same thing because, again, you want to have 2 winners that cash, but it's impossible to just stack like the 2 heavy favorites when there's minus, big time favorites like that. So that's the exact strategy you should have for cash. I'm asking for a tournament's perspective, so give it to me.
For tournaments and cash, I really like KT tonight. It's an LCK team. KT is the underdogs, I believe, in this game. Not by much, but they are the underdogs. KT
are the underdogs.
KT is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 matches in a row.
Okay.
And most of their matches have gone to 3 games of those, except for 2. So at that point, if they end up losing, at least you still should get a 30 game, which means you should get a decent amount of points out of them.
Did this team play last night?
KT, I believe it did. Yeah, they did. They played Griffin last night. It was in the middle round, so like 5 o'clock your time, I believe.
Did they get smoked?
They won. They won 2-1.
Okay, so I guess I'll follow that up with: can this LCK team get there for us?
It could. I mean, if you look at Aiming, who is their ADC.
Okay.
Go to his game log, and besides the game last night, look at his last 3 games. He can get you the points.
Like, what is really good for your ADC? 100?
You're hoping for, I'm hoping that he gets you 30 to 40 points a game. So if he plays 2 games, let's say he gets right here in the middle, he gets you 70 points, those combined, and then they get the 20 points for the bonus of not playing a third game. If they 2-0 you, that's 90 points. I'd take 90 points from my ADC. But he's gotten 102, 109, and 98 in 3 of his past 4 games.
Okay, I like the call, man, because you don't have to. Again, we'd rather play the LPL or the LPL or LCL.
1 sec.
You're good.
I gotta grab my charger real quick. I'll be right back.
Cool. Hey guys, I'm liking this video. I know that I never in a million years thought I'd be Legends DFS, but here we are, and it's fun. I'm not gonna lie, I'm really enjoying it. It's hella fun. It's easy to build, and if you take a shot on an underdog and they win, chances are, if you pair that with the right squad, you're doing well in tournaments. And I'll let Dustin, when he gets back, break it down even more. I like the KT call, though. So it seems like you're gonna pair we with K2. KT.
Yeah.
Okay. The one game I wanted to ask you about that we didn't. Well, I guess we touched on. You brought them up earlier. Like, what about Sunning? Can they pull off the upset here?
I think TS has just been sorry. I think TES has just been playing way too well.
Yeah, they've won a bunch in a row. Both.
And they've been 2-0ing their team, so they've been looking really well. Let me pull up there.
I think after last night, too, I think you see people dive even more into upsets. And, like, that doesn't happen every night. And that's the other part of this. Like, if you – just like it's easy to cash, if you stack a team you got to stack 2 teams to cash. If you don't stack a winning team, you're not cashing. It's as simple as that. I mean, you're not cashing if you choose a losing team. It's not like, you're not cashing.
Yeah, just for instance, last night, after the first 2 games, so the LNG, and that was about 30% ownership across the board, across their players and some of my cash lineups. After they played, 3 or 4 of their players scored a total of like 35 points, which is what you want out of one player for one game. And that was the total for the whole series for them. So.
Wait, for who are you talking about?
Players from LNG. So if you don't pick a winning team, you can pretty much just kiss your night goodbye.
Right, but I will say this though, like, I'm not sure. Did you cash last night in your lineup?
Yeah.
Okay, you had a losing team in your lineup, but you had like the best case scenario of a losing team that all like we talked about, when underdogs win, especially a team like ES, they still scored a lot. So you all benefited by LNG losing because they were really chalky.
Exactly. I had a 4-man stack of ES, including my captain spot, and they all averaged about 80 points for me in a loss. But they went to 3 games and they had a bunch of kills except for the last game on each game, so it did pretty well for me. And then I took T1 players who were an underdog last night because I had to stack someone with those expensive players, and they ended up pulling out a 3-game series, and I cashed. I think I was about 80 points above the line.
So the moral of the story is, like, just like any other sport in DFS, it's like it's all slate dependent. Every night could be different, and that's what makes it fun, man. Like, I know it seems crazy, like these guys are playing video games, but like, it's fun. Like, it is fun playing this stuff. Okay, so your favorite seems like it's we. Am I correct there? Are you worried at all that they lost last game?
I'm not worried, mostly because I know the team they're playing isn't very good, and I know we plays really well, and they're also, I believe they were breaking in some new players. Let me see.
Okay. That's the other thing. I know it sounds crazy for someone who doesn't game, and that's me. Like, how these guys are human. Like, we, might very easily like, and again, I'm not saying this is the case for them, but like they could overlook the team they're playing tonight and just like not care. We don't know what's going on. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen with them, but there's that human element about it too, which is what we love about DFS.
And just like in most sports, all it takes is a quick couple deaths on your team, and you can get down really quickly, and the other team can take advantage of it and see blood in the water and just go for it. That's pretty much what happened. I watched the upset last night from the DMO LNG game, and DMO got on top of them really quick, and they just never got off the gas pedal. Both
Really?
games.
See, I feel like good teams though, like at least fight their way back in the game, and that's
That's
the
what.
thing. LNG was a favorite, and they weren't a good team though.
Yeah, they just weren't a good team. That was a battle of two bad teams.
Yes, there was no reason why they should have been such heavy favorites and such big chalk. And it worked out last night. Doesn't mean it's going to work out tonight. You might get all the favorites win tonight, like they're
And
favorites for a reason. You know what I'm
that
saying? So like,
often
you got to
enough.
really pick spots. I want to be careful to get that out there because it's easy to cash when you pick the right teams that win, but it's harder than it seems to pick the right teams. Go ahead.
Yeah. Ooh, got sidetracked there. Yeah. What was I going to say? But yeah, more often than not, though, the favorites usually win. A lot of these players are extremely good, and they're favored for a reason. If you look at a lot of the standings, there's a lot of teams on the tops that have really good records, and there's a lot of bad teams on the bottom. Like tonight, my game plan is probably to put probably mix and match with some KT somewhere in there. The other thing that
I want to go back to the one game. Sorry that I got caught up before. You said you like KT, and I like that call. But DRX is also pretty good, aren't they?
They are good, and this can be another top kind of battle team. Top of the standings battle.
Okay.
Pull up their. But I feel like these teams like to kill a little bit more. So we got Dragon X, which is 9-4, and you got KT, which is 8-5. Whoa.
More middle of the pack, huh?
No, they're the 3 and 4 ranked teams.
Okay.
But the LCK is there's two teams that are 11-2, a 9-4 and 8-5, and then those are the top 4 teams, and everyone below that is 500 or less. So usually when those top 4 teams are playing, they're usually winning. And kind of like how we said earlier, the LCK league is a lot more strategy based.
Right.
They will just beat the other team down and then win, while the LPL is trying to get kills. Like, for instance, when you'll see them probably in a couple games, a couple slates from now, the E-Stars are a young team that a lot of them were backups on teams or playing on filler teams. They're all getting their shot now, and they're all going out there and showing that they were passed stuff on. And I think that's why they go for so many kills and show off.
Okay, so, but you still think KT, but DRX is that 4th place team, right?
DRX is the 3rd place team. KT is the 4th place team.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was confused in that for a second. Are T1 and are the 2 teams that played last night 1 and 2?
They are 1 and 2.
Okay. All right. So that makes sense. I like the KT call. I mean, it's, I think. Go ahead.
It could be a really GPP play. Is they played earlier this year, February 16th, so like a month and a half ago, and DWG 2-0'd them. So this could be some revenge. And they also were. So
wait, which one are you talking about? You said DWG.
Yeah, the Dragon X. Oh, sorry.
You mean DRX?
Yeah, but I don't see that game. Sorry, I read that wrong. That's what all these teams get confusing. I don't know if they played yet this season.
DRX and KT?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right now. If they did, it was before the coronavirus outbreak, so I don't really take I take all those games with a grain of salt personally, because a lot of teams change up their rosters from then.
So it seems like they did play this quad, the mid for DRX, last played on February 7th, and they played at KT, and they won 2-1.
Yeah, so they 2-1 him. So that last game, and he's the backup. Oh, and here's the other thing for you guys. LPL, they post the lineups, the starting lineups beforehand, so you can know who's in and out of your lineups. The LCK does not. So that you take a risk on. There's a lot of players in the LCK that are their start, but there is some subs that happen.
Like, ultimately, like, you want 2 winning teams from the LPL, a favorite and an underdog. But that's not always going to happen. There's only 3 games. So, like, a lot of times, especially with these big favorites, all 3 favorites are going to win. And you can't really pair those teams together. So you're going to have to look to the LCK because there's 3 more winning teams there. You know, you got to have 2 winning teams. So the strategy changes on a night-by-night basis. Like the KT call, because seems to me like you think that game is about even, and I think DRX is more expensive and they'll get more ownership because they're the favorite. So you're able to pair like who seems to be your favorite top team, and you're able to pair KT with them pretty easily, I would assume.
Yeah. You can actually you can actually probably, just looking at it, let me see what I got.
You can probably like captain Zhu Meng, the ADC from Wii, who's nasty, yeah.
Yeah,
98. And then aim. If you stack do you want, like, what are the 4 main ones you want to stack?
From each team, it kind of just depends. I always try to get the mid and the ADC in there. Those are just the top 2 scoring players. They're the ones that are dealing all the damage.
Okay.
So kills are worth 3 points, assists are worth 2 points, and a death is worth -1.
Okay.
So those 2 guys comboing in an attack, getting you 4 kills out of that attack, that gets you, if they do all the damage there, 12 points between the 2 of them. Plus they'll get assists, so you get the 2 points on the top of it. You can end up getting 20 points in that situation from those 2 players if they do all the kills then without the other players taking them. So I like to do a 4-team stack. I usually try to get the mid, the ADC, and then usually try to get the jungler in there because he's trying to set up all these attacks. He's cruising throughout the map just trying to set up attacks. And then I swap between the top player and the support player. Support player usually gets the least amount of points on the team because they're not the damage dealers, they're the setups. So if they're not setting things up, and they're always usually the person or the player that takes the death in situations that somebody has to die.
You said jungle was your 3rd, though, correct?
Sorry, Sid. I'm pulling your thing out.
After ADC and mid, you want jungle?
Yeah, jungle usually.
So I'm going to just tell you right now, I think that is very low owned tonight. Because even like right now I'm building, can you see it on my screen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You cannot fit the top from Wii. So like you would have to finish this build with like a KT guy. Top from KT is
So Juan, I believe.
Yeah, he's the cheapest one. So then here, and you just can't get to missing. That's so frustrating.
So what do you do here? What are you off by?
You're off by 200. So like, would you maybe
try and put Zhu Ming back in the ADC spot
and aiming in captain
and either teacher mod probably put in captain.
Wait, but then you can't get aiming though.
Yeah, then you give up on aiming, but you take their mid. That's the kind of trade-off you have to do there. You can definitely switch aiming and Jumong and then get missing, no problem. And that's
Wait, hold
more.
on. So then my mid would be Kate
Who's KT's mid?
Kuro.
Kuro. Who hasn't been playing that well, but.
And I can get missing.
And then you should be able to get missing that way.
I did. So there we go.
And then you have 4 on the better team tonight, and then you have 3 players on the team that could possibly lose still. Those are kind of what my builds look like.
I got to ask you this. More important for, like, more important for you to captain one of the 2 mains from Wii as opposed to captaining, like, aiming, or more important to get both ADC, or is it more important to get ADCs in, or is it case dependent? It's obviously that's not the case because you didn't do that here, but is it just a case by case situation, or usually is this the way you approach it?
I look to do something like this. Usually that's a lot of what my builds will look like. Or if it doesn't work that way, I'll sacrifice the team player and do somebody else from a team to build a little bit better.
I get that.
Because the teams will score the least amount, and they're usually a lot cheaper than everything else.
I don't like picking just like the cheapest team, unless I think that team has a legit shot to win. Like AT, like obviously they're part of the stack, like, but I don't want to just take Rogue Warriors, or I don't want to take APK or whoever it is, like, because they're the cheapest. Like, I want to get up to KT here. I like the KT call, and quite honestly, like, if you want Wii, you need a team like KT. Otherwise, you can't build it. So I don't know if you saw that before you said you liked Wii or what, but I'm with you, man. Let's roll.
Yeah. I mean, that's a pretty solid build there. And the thing about the mid and the jungle, or the mid and the ADC players and the top as well, is they get things called creep scores. So they kill the little minions on the map. They're little creatures that run around the map, and each kill is worth, I think it's 1 point, but 1 creep score kill in DFS is 0.02 points, which adds up real quick, because at each match, those 2 players can get upwards of 350 creep score, which equates to 7 extra points. While a support player maybe gets you 50 of those points, so it just equals out to 1 point in DFS. So putting them in the capital spot is just a little extra cushion, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. No, repeat that. Sorry, I wasn't following you. I'm going to listen this time. Go ahead. Sorry.
So the mid player, the top player, and the ADC, it's usually the ADC and mid will score the most creep score, which is just extra little bonus points for DFS. So having them in the captain spot is a little extra cushion. So some of my builds, like my last night build, I had the support player from ES because they were so expensive in my captain spot, and he got a total of like 120 maybe creep score, so that equates out to an extra 2.3 points, but their ADC got upwards of 800, which equates out to 16 points. So having some of this, when you can sometimes get those ADCs, those top laners or those mid laners in your captain spot, they'll get that extra score.
You want those guys in your captain. You only go support if you like have to. If you're like trying to jam 2 expensive teams in, like, exactly. And like, I don't think that's a GPP winning strategy. Though it can, like anything else, like it can win tournaments, just like, captaining a catcher in baseball and they can hit 2 home runs. Like, it is similar to baseball DFS. Like, the games couldn't be more different. Obviously, baseball and League of Legends are nothing alike, but I actually find that DFS similar, and I like that a lot. Obviously, I love baseball, so I'm like getting into this. This is fun, man. I had fun with this video. It's 4:20 right now, which is actually a perfect time to get off. So, yeah, in more ways than one, this was a great video. And hold on, let me stop screen sharing. Yeah, man. So I don't know. Anything else you want to add?
If anyone's going to start playing, if anyone wants to risk their money on it, I would say start slow, maybe watch it, see how it works, and see if you like it. Don't just throw your bankroll on it right away. it's something that when I started playing, I threw a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there, until I got the hang of it, until I realized how it all worked out, and then I was willing to risk a little bit more.
So
But
I
I
played the first time I ever played this, and I never thought I would ever play this, was like a little over a week ago. And the first time I ever made a lineup, I didn't look at anything. I just like entered a lineup and I just used all random players. And I had no idea. And that's the stupidest thing you could ever do because you're not going to cast like that. It takes like a mirror. I mean, you're just not, because if you do that, like you can't even get players from all winning teams. And I feel like there's still an edge in this, and that people are still just like, desperate to play anything and aren't learning about it. So, I think a lot of people have learned. I mean, even someone like me is playing it, but I still think there's an edge. I'm having fun with it. It's fun talking about, but I couldn't agree more. Start slow for sure.
It's funny, about 3 weeks ago, before all the sports got canceled, the biggest League of Legends contest was like the top prize was like a couple $100.
Right?
Now they're doing the like 100K guaranteed, 50K guaranteed, and they were doing like 1,000 guaranteed. That's when I was playing, and now all the sharks are on it now, and so it gets a little tougher.
Oh, I know you messaged me like a few days ago. Like, I see your name in those contests, and you see a lot of familiar names now because there's just nothing else to do. Those sim contests are like, they're free, so if I see it, maybe I'll throw a lineup in there, but I certainly not something I watch. This is a stretch for me, but it's fun. And like you said, there's big money in it now. I remember I've never played this before, would never even think about playing it, but I would be a lying man if I said I'd never crept in the LOL lobby before just to see what was going on.
Man,
And there was
take a lot
never
of
anything
together.
more than the $12 single entry. I feel like was like one of the biggest, contests, like a few $100 winner. I mean, now, and I get it, there's nothing else to do. Like, it legit looks like not, I don't want to say like an NFL lobby because it's not quite that, but it looks like a normal small NBA slate night. You know what I mean? Like, it is crazy, but it's fun. And I think that, the more we talk about it, the more that I play it for sure, I'm going to just learn it and get better. So I'm hyped, man.
I mean, looking at tonight's slate, the $10 slate, the top prize is 50K. I don't think there was 50K worth in prizes a month ago.
Right? I mean,
And
total.
prizes across all their things.
It's been huge for like people getting into it because, like, I mean, honestly, I'm not gonna play it when other sports are going on just because I won't have the time for it. But like, I can see myself dabbling every now and then because it's fun as hell, man. And if there's no other sports going on, like, why not? It's fun. I'm more hyped after making this video too because it's just getting me into it. And there's nothing going on right now, so there's nothing else to do. So I'm about it.
The other thing I would recommend is if people end up making lineups and they end up watching it, listen to the casters. They share a lot of information
It's
about
like
what's
hard to
going
listen to
on.
the casters though because like they know too much. They don't dumb it down.
They think everyone knows because what they're used to is people that are watching know what they're doing, not gamblers.
Exactly, bro. Like, precisely. But they got a new audience now. I don't know. I get what they're doing. The announcers are good. I'm not going to say that I like watch all the games, but I look at the box scores. Like, it's a good feeling. Like, if you're watching and like one of your teams wins, especially if it's an underdog, you're like, hell yeah. It doesn't take that much more than that. Like, you don't need like, you know, it just it's simple. It's the best way I can put it. I don't know.
Agree.
All right, so that's all I got, man. You got anything else?
Now, if you guys like it, we might be able to do some more videos here and there, not like an everyday type of thing. We can. I'm always like I can always write people if they have some questions or if anyone wants to post some stuff. I can always throw out my opinion, see where it goes.
For sure, man. I'm down to make these videos. We'll talk after, whenever you're free. So thanks a lot for doing this with me, and thanks, guys.